Chapter 11. Walking in a world so unfamiliar was a sensation that could never be brought with success or money. Just the thought that crossed Garmin's mind as their journey was seemingly coming to an end. The walls of a palace loomed large in the reflection of his eyes, his heart beat in sync to the rhythm of the vibrations hitting him through the air, and the large being leading him with a consuming shadow put his mind to a place of no control, an autopilot, if you will. Guards opened the large palace doors and revealed the contents of a large set of scented stairs with two paths either side, leading to dark hallways. The large white carpet covering the floor and most of the steps was so white it was blinding. The stairs shined with a glossy glow, and the large stained glass windows let in colours that twisted and turned on anything willing to reflect them. Garmin felt like he was witnessing a painting in a gallery. Everything was so perfectly placed, and the final image was, and could be, described in its entirety as peace or peaceful. Rimmelsden glanced at Garmin and noticed his admiration for the image in front of him. Giving him a moment to soak it in, he gave a small grin, and then, in view of Garmin's eyes, he gestured him to the stairs. Going up the stairs, Garmin felt his next movements were fated, almost autopiloted in a manner where his choice was taken from him. Rimmelsden stopped abruptly at a random floor to which Garmin did not know where or why they had stopped. Turning to face him, Rimmelsden gestured his long, powerful arm down the darkness of a corridor leading from the left. Garmin felt a weakness hit his body. The darkness consuming him, he found light at what seemed to be the end, where two guards were waiting outside a large wooden door. The guards looked into the darkness behind Garmin and then opened the large wooden door. The warmth of the room hit Garmin first, and then the powerful light and shadows cast from the fireplace hit his eyes. Sitting in what seemed to be a small library in front of the fireplace was an older man built with a strong body. He looked to be a man of 70 or 80. Holding a hand to his side, a rabbit with an unusual blue hue to its fur coat was sitting in the man's palm. "Hello, Garmin," the old man said. "Hello. I'm sorry, but have we met?" asked Garmin. The old man smiled and placed the rabbit on the arm of the chair. "This is the first time we're meeting," he replied. "How do you know my name?" asked Garmin. "It is my duty as king to know," replied the old man. "King?" Garmin retorted. "Yes, king of this kingdom," replied the old man. Garmin looked around the room as if he was looking for help. "My name is Francis. You can call me that if you wish. Now, would you like to know why you're here?" said Francis. Stopping his search, Garmin retained his attention to the old man once more. "Yes, please, Francis, if you would," replied Garmin. "You were chosen by the moon to take part in our trials for the kingdom and the marriage of my daughter." Francis's words seemed to echo in Garmin's ears, but to no avail, as their meaning had been empty in the process of them. "Sorry, say that again?" asked Garmin. "Very well. You have been chosen by the moon. How does a moon choose someone?" Garmin asked with slight frustration. "Your connection with it, however minuscule or insignificant, is of key importance of your selection," replied King Francis. "Connection with a sphere of rock?" Garmin retorted. "I can see you're unsettled and unsatisfied with my explanation," said King Francis, raising a hand to stop the guards, who were slowly approaching Garmin from behind. Looking around, Garmin saw the last flicker of movement from the guards, and began half-twirls of someone drunk on madness. "Breathe, Garmin, breathe." Everything went black, and Garmin experienced silence. Garmin woke up in an unfamiliar room that smelled like fresh flowers. The light from the sky overwhelmed the room and gave it a presence of life. Everything in his mind was blank, even the moments leading up to his awoke state. His behaviour erratic, to say the least. He knew now that this wasn't a dream or any kind of joke. It was real. All of it. A shadow cast from the window like the wingspan from a very large bird. He got up and went to the window, and saw a large flying creature he had never seen before. Its wingspan as long as a skyscraper, a neck 2 houses long, and a body the length of a back street in London. Its feathers were a hue of blue, green, and yellow. Its body white, with a large and long dragon-like beak, its golden glow reminiscent of a distant star when backdropped by the expansive space behind the colourful sky. The sky behind it a pushback of colour from the pressure of its wings. It seemed to control the sky, and as small vibrations occurred, it would hover in anticipation. "It's not common to see a Garness. You have luck on your side," said a voice from behind him. Turning, Garmin saw King Francis behind him holding a wooden cup of water. "I have never seen something so magical, if that is the right word," said Garmin, taking the cup from Francis. "This world still surprises me even after 50 years. There are things, in fact, I've still never seen, but have heard about from the Rabations that have lived here for hundreds of years." "Rabations?" asked Garmin. "Rabbit people, to put it simply," replied Francis. "Rabbit people?" Garmin questioned again. "It's a long story, but the people in this dimension, or world as I say it, are descendants of rabbits," Francis answered with a smile that acknowledged the lunacy of Garmin's thoughts. "You mean rabbits evolved into humans?" Garmin said the words with doubt. "They mated with humans," Francis concluded. "Mated?" Garmin said the word with no emotion or meaning behind it. The word was said completely empty. "Mated." Garmin said the word with no emotion or meaning behind it. The word was said completely empty. Thousands and thousands of years ago. Hard to comprehend when you've seen a rabbit or two, I assure you, but things were actually different back then. Extinction, would you believe, starts with the shrinking of a species, both in number and size, until the creature or being cannot function for even one slice of time it used to live for. Hence why rabbits are so small now. Extinction. There are bigger players involved in creation, and I lack the knowledge or right to explain it to you. But if you go through these trials and potentially become king, things do make sense here. Life is to be said an experience, and this world is just that, an experience. What will it be, Garmin Tilt? Will you think it over for an old fool? Asked Francis earnestly. Garmin felt a shake to the fundamental foundations of his perspectives and structure of what he felt was true, or in essence truth. King Francis did not appear to be lying. Clearly he wasn't dreaming either. It felt like everything he had done in his life had no true meaning. It had been taken away from him with no choice in the matter. connection with the moon, be a king, trials. Anger flashed within his eyes, and he watched the water tremble within the shake of his hands. Francis saw this and placed his old hand onto Garmin's, which was holding the water. "You have every right to be angry, Garmin. I know your life on Earth was one made with hard work and success. Losing that for a new life that requires you to immediately challenge yourself for a new reward that you may not even get is indeed infuriating. But please, let me tell you, the life I have lived here has been like no other, and I have experienced everything my past life would or could not give me. If there is a gap in your life, or hole in your heart, Garmin, this life will fill it for you, whether you like it or not." Francis smiled and brought his gaze to the floor. Garmin's anger quelled. He stayed silent. "My past life, would you believe, I was an alcoholic that had lost everything. My ex-wife had taken 40 years of my hard work in one small court case of divorce. I could never see my son again. But one night I was drinking my last bottle of whiskey in an empty shopping car park. I looked up and I saw the full moon. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Of course, I've seen the moon before, but this night, for some reason, my attention was stolen by it. And then, the rest is history. Unfortunately, I cannot describe the trials that you would endure to take my position. They hold infinite ways of challenging us humans, but even if you are not chosen and you go back to Earth, your life, you will find, will never be the same. You will not remember this conversation or the moments henceforth, but there will be a change in your life regardless if you choose it or not. That's how powerful even having this experience is." Garmin regretted his anger, and his eyes softened. "Do not fret, Garmin. Anger is a common occurrence to those who are chosen, a natural reaction. Now enough of my jibber-jabbing. Relax yourself, make yourself at home. The trials start tomorrow. I will have someone check for your answer tomorrow morning." Francis left as silent as he had come. Taking the wooden cup, now completely empty, the door closed, and Garmin looked at the door in silence with empty thoughts. After a minute or two, with a fixed gaze straight ahead, he turned and just sat on the bed. Words, decisions, actions, what order do they follow? What order does he process them? Garmin was used to making big decisions, life-changing ones, but this decision was different. This was more than life-changing. It was overwhelming. The idea of him sitting on a throne with a crown was something that had never crossed his mind, and would never cross his mind, as he wasn't by blood a royal, or at least to his knowledge. Then there was this marriage to the king's daughter. Is he not too old to marry a woman that he would imagine to be in her 20s? What if she did not learn to love him or want him? He would be trapped. Thoughts such as these plagued him for the eternity of 15 minutes, before he placed his hands on his head and gave up thinking entirely. He placed a beautifully crafted wooden chair by the windowsill and sat looking out at the sky. If there was anything he was grateful for in this experience, it was the sky. Its colour looked as confused and helpless as he did, with the variations of the rainbow all twisting and turning in careful consideration of their clashing, their directions paused in hesitation would finally clash in a crescendo of avoidance of other colours. Hoping to find answers in the sky, Garmin was left disappointed. Perhaps finding answers wasn't the real answer, but to let things flow was. Garmin, in truth, had always been structured, directed, planned, and had never in his life let fate take his hand and lead him. As long as he wouldn't die as a result of all of this, he was now willing to let life take control. Assuring himself he was safe as he looked around the room, he caught a small glimpse of himself in an oblong mirror and found his eyes. In those eyes was excitement and an unbalanced happiness he had never felt before, or could even understand. The pressure of success, of constantly chasing and enduring time's effortless roller coasters of ups and downs, was surely leaving his shoulders, and softly guiding him blindfolded through a new world was a new unfolded fate taking shape as an old king, a rabbit, and a sky of varying emotion.